And so I'm Matthieu Longuere as a wine development manager at Le Cordon Bleu here. I'm a master sommelier. I've been working in the industry since '94. Sommelier for 21 years, and I've been teaching and creating courses here for 11 years. So I've seen mostly the on-trade side, but on the education side, I've seen how things have evolved, how people get motivated, and what I've been trying to make sure that people learn, but also enjoy learning. And this is something that we that is also really, really important because wine is something that you share. Wine is something that evolve very quickly as we see now. So I'm just going to start maybe with Sarah and ask you. So in your 3.5 years at Hallgarten Novum, what have you seen as a big change in terms of trends? Has everything been relatively stable, or have you seen quite a lot of change in trends in terms of the style of wine that is popular, the range of wine that is popular? What do you think?
I think there has been a change, yes. I think there's definitely a move towards greater sustainability in wine. That's a key trend, really, not just in wine, but it's one which wine is picking up, and it's one which us at Hallgarten are really trying to make sure that we are really on board with. We've got our own eco standard that we do with all of our producers, so it's a really key aspect of everything that we do. So I think that's really interesting. I think it's interesting, obviously it's a difficult market out there with a cost of living crisis, so I think it's really making sure that whilst wine consumption is perhaps declining, there's a move to perhaps quality over quantity. So it's really trying to make sure that we can tap into that properly. So yeah, it's just really making sure that we can see what our customers in both the on and the off trade want, and really make sure we can deliver their needs.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, of course, yeah. Because I usually come from I usually come from a face-to-face contact with a customer. I don't think I was thinking more about product, but yeah, you're right. Sustainability is actually, it's more about the way all the things that are accessory to wine or to beverage in general than the purely the product. People want a bit more than that. What have you noticed with the customers in the restaurant? Do you have the similar demand? Or?
For sure. I mean, like, obviously, it's not like everybody who comes to the restaurant will ask for, a particular style of wine, but more often you see people asking the question: is this an organic wine? Is this a sustainable wine? So you do see the demand there. And then I was at a tasting just a few days ago, actually, to try the champagne Telmont, their new release Rosé, 100% organic grape. And then what the winemaker was trying to promote is that to put that sense, sustainability and all this responsible growing into customers' mind, and then people started to ask for that will push the producer to look into that and see what we can do to make the whole process, the whole industry more sustainable. So I think that's a good point, and people started to think more about that.
Yeah, because I guess historically we were. For a long time, the average spend for a bottle of wine in the UK, because most wine are sold in supermarket, would have been around the £6, and it's kind of shifted but for a long time, up until 2 or 3 years ago, so not so long ago. But now wine is going from a mean to an end to probably something that is more sought after, and people are more keen, as Sarah and Gasselin mentioned, more keen to have something slightly more better, upgrade in terms of quality a little bit. And I mean, nobody, to be honest, if you really want to get drunk, you can drink a spirit, and it's going to be much quicker. But if you want to enjoy wine, I mean, all the side the story about the family, about everything will be quite important. I mean, do you see that with the two main producer of families that you represent, Olivier?
Yes, definitely. In fact, they are the company I work for, Mansfield, is very committed to sustainability, and in fact, all our producers, all the families we represent, they are signing up a chart committing to sustainable viticulture and respecting the environment as much as possible. Most of them would produce organic style of wine. Some of them will also use biodynamic principles, so they are committed to this quality level. Now talking about trend, I think we need to really emphasize the fact that the UK is still the capital of or the center point of wine in the world, with pretty much any wine producer being represented onto the market, or most fine wine making region being represented. I think what has changed quite a bit is the fact that the UK population is quite well versed into wine. They've got relatively good knowledge. Coming from France, if you check with the average French person, they don't know anything about wine. And usually what they know is what is being produced in their area, in their local area. Whatever is happening 200 kilometers away does not exist. So in the UK, the knowledge is extremely good on average. But there is a decline in wine consumption. It's quite clear. And I think the big focus for companies, for people like Sarah and I, is to ensure the younger generation is still interested in wine, which is not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, no, so this is actually, as you were mentioning, so what I was thinking is, I am originally from Bordeaux, and the reason why I came to the UK is because I wanted to learn about wine, because in Bordeaux, as you said, we know that's where the best wine in the world come from. It comes from Bordeaux, obviously. But if you want to try other wine, if you want to be able to say, okay, Bordeaux make the best wine or good wine, you might need to try other things. So this is what I found is most people in a non-wine producing country tend to be much cleaner to learn. I mean, out of experience at the school, on our diploma program, we've had over 110 or 120 students so far, and they've been coming for 20, 25 different nationalities. And this is really important, because the keenest are usually the ones who actually don't come from one producing country. And there is an open-mindedness that you need to have when you want to learn about wine, when you want to enjoy wine. That's is not necessarily evident from people coming from wine-producing countries or region. But in terms of because I think I don't have the figure-wise, I'm not necessarily completely up to date, but the vast majority of wine in the UK is drunk by the older fringe of the population, basically. So as you say, the younger generation. Do you see a spread in your customer in terms of age, or?
In my restaurant, obviously we have a lot of not just leisure travelers and people coming here for just a relaxed family meal. We also have a lot of business people. So I would say, by and large, still you see the slightly younger generation drinking less wine, but then this called so-called the older generation, they're more into wine. But I think also we all know that wine is, at the end of the day, more of an acquired taste. So your palate grows with age and with trying new different things. So I mean, like I'm still confident at one point the younger generation who is not drinking a lot of wine right now might change eventually, or maybe learn more about wine. But I do see that by and large, people here, my customers here, they're willing to try new things. So not only I have the traditional varieties, traditional wine from the well-known region on the list, I also have things from lesser known variety, lesser known region. And then I found that with a good conversation and a good introduction, a lot of people are willing to try, particularly for my glass or over the tasting menu. So I like the fact that people here are more open-minded to try different things. And like you said, here you pay pretty much in London, you name a wine-producing region, you can find that wine on the market. So this is the advantage we have. So we should keep trying, and then we can, as a sommelier, we should keep trying, and then we will help the customer to try more, and then to get the education going.
Thank you. And I guess you have wine from Greece, from Turkey, from a lot of different countries on your portfolio, Sarah. Do you think, because if you look at the portfolio itself, they represent a large size of what you offer, but in terms of sales, do they represent the same proportions, or as what you can see on your portfolio, or is it?
Yeah, I think there's a good spread across all the regions that we have. Obviously, some of the more well-known regions are perhaps popular, but I think what is exciting, as was just mentioned, is the new emerging regions. Greek wine is a particular favourite of Hallgarten, but we've had that on our list for some time, and I think that's the excitement that you get with the younger generation. They're really keen to learn. I think with the influencers and the more of the sales and marketing of wine brands, I think that's really evident, and I think it's just a really exciting time to be able to look at new regions, and I'm always delighted when we've got a new region or a new producer. I'm always really excited. So, and it's great that we can do that in our portfolio.
Thank you. No, because also, what I've seen is there have been some study about the relation also to the age of the consumer, but to also their disposable income. So more and more people struggle to be able to buy their first house before they're 30 or 35 years. So once people tend to be a bit more comfortable financially, this is when they start to drink a bit more. So I suppose my understanding is people will be more open, younger people will be a bit more open-minded on trying different wine from different areas because they won't have any preconceptions also, which is not necessarily true from somebody of my age. But in terms of, Sarah, you were talking about influencers. Do you see how important are becoming influencers in the way you establish brand and things like that? And,
yeah, it's definitely important. It's very much part of our marketing and our when we're working. It's key that we engage with them. Really, just traditional press, influencers. We really want to make sure that we can get the information out about our wine into all channels. I think it's really exciting that there's that new channel we can work with. Social media is just such a big part of all of our lives now, and we have some great relationships with influencers. So it's really exciting to work like that. So,
thank you. And Olivier, I was going to ask you, because you're like me, you've been in restaurant for about 20, before you joined Mansfield, you were working in restaurant, and I remember the time where Rosé was not on the list. We had one Rosé in the summer. Do you think how is the trend in Rosé has evolved in terms of the property you represent, and do you see the switch? Because I think Rosé now has overtaken either white or red wine in terms of consumption in France. So this is quite the big thing nowadays.
I think Rosé is a major category, whether it is still or sparkling, because sparkling champagne rosé is also a very, very key category in a merchant's portfolio or restaurant list, actually. It's not only merchants, but I think Rosé is a key part. There are some key brands which are really widely present on the market, but less known brands can have their chance, and I think the popularity, the demand is breaking records pretty much every year since the last 10 years. But I'm a rosé drinker. Despite being a former sommelier, I'm a rosé drinker. I like rosé. And I do enjoy drinking rosé in the summer, but also throughout the year. And what I find interesting with rosé, and we were talking about this with Jianchen a little earlier, food and wine pairing. I think rosé is a really, really a great type of wine to pair with food, particularly Indian food, Asian food. We've got such a variety of great food in the UK, in different restaurants, at home, what you find in supermarkets, that you can play around with rosé, and I think rosé is extremely versatile. So we are waiting for some more interesting offering from the UK, because the UK produces some great wines, but rosé, so far I haven't tried too much good wines.
Yes, rosé. At the moment, you find some good sparkling rosé from the UK, but still, after when you're looking at a product like rosé, also sometimes because there is a big demand for it. For rosé, one thing that I found is a lot of producers, if they start to reach a certain scale of production, they have to fit within the trend for pale rosé from Provence, not to name them. So sometimes it tends to limit the creativity of producers. So smaller producers will kind of have the freedom of making something that is a bit more unique or unusual, because you can easily communicate to. So if you're selling several thousand bottles of wine, it's much easier to communicate about them and sell them. But if you're reaching the million bottles, I guess we're all stuck with the relatively safe, what we call safe style of rosé. So I guess the perception for rosé is normal, or do you see still some people thinking about stereotyping rosé?
I mean, obviously, rosé, as we all know, the initial education to the general public, they have done a great job. So everybody now know rosé, and a lot of time when people come in, oh, you know what, I want a glass of rosé, I want a glass of pale rosé. I said, okay, and then, or some people open the wine list, the first thing they ask me, oh, which one is the palest, right? So I can see that they put the name out, they put the brand, they put the style out, but then now it's time, I think, for us as the frontline wine educator in quotes to tell people there are other style of rosé. It's not just the pale Provençal style. There are other styles. There are more structured one. There are more food friendly one. There are more like the aperitif or maybe an end of the meal. Some can go with light appetizer. Some can go for even heavier meat. So that's why I always tell my friends or tell the customer there are 15 shades of rosé, to say the least, right? And actually last year I did an experiment at home. I did 15 days of food and wine pairing with all different kind of styles of rosé, and then it's fun to do. And I posted on my social media to give people a different idea to try different things. I mean, obviously, I have the pale rosé, very very nice, easy, approachable. People like it on my wine list, but at the same time, I also have a very interesting rosé, Greek rosé, with 100-day steam contact. A very nice structure with a nice tannin, beautiful aroma for my tasting menu. And then people will look at the wine and say, oh, that is so dark. What is this? It's a rosé. Oh, it can be like that. Okay, then that opens conversation. We can talk about why rosé can be darker or paler. and then why the rosé can present this aroma or versus the other aroma. That opens conversation, then get the education out, and hopefully more people are going for more serious rosé, and then more producers can get out of their limit and do something interesting.
But also, to be fair, the color doesn't really relate with the taste. So quite often what I do when we teach in class, I have 3 rosé exactly the same color, and with tastes that go left, right, and center. So the grape variety will be more important. The percentage of alcohol would be more telling than the actual. And also the fact whether it's oaked or not oaked. The palest of Rosé tend to be fermented and aged in barrels, and they literally taste more like Chardonnay than Rosé. It's a very good wine, but if you give it literally blind or in a blind glass, most people might not necessarily associate the wine with Rosé at all. But and also Olivier talked a bit about England, and I can't help thinking about when I first came to England and English wine. I'm talking about 94. To be honest, English wine was good to clean the bathroom or something like that, because they had the acidity was, let's put it that way, really apparent. And English wine have made massive progress, and I guess climate change play a big part in that. And because you have some of your the producer on your portfolio invested in the UK, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So yes, one of the champagne producer we use has just released the sparkling wine from Kent, but still with the same philosophy as all the wineries we import into the UK. They wanted to take their time, making sure the wine was right when it was released. So it's not a vintage sparkling wine, it's a non-vintage, multi-vintage sparkling wine. But I think there are some brands in the UK which put the UK onto the world map. And since then, in the last few years, the proliferation of really great wineries has really started to increase. We see, we can't name any name, but there are some really world-class sparkling wine made into the UK. And now still wines. There are a few things which are popping around, and I think climate change is a very, very good point. Climate change will help develop this category for the UK. And I think the future is quite bright, and this year should be a very great vintage because the weather has been particularly glorious. So we should see some really good wines produced this year, I'm pretty sure.
And Sarah, you have quite a lot of very good producers from the UK, but you took, since just in only 4 years, you took quite a lot of new ones, no?
Yeah, we've definitely expanded our UK market. Our UK producers, we've got producers in Essex, we've got Newhall there, and we've got producers down in Sussex, Hoffman and Rathman down there, Simpsons. So we've got some lovely sparkling wines and still wines in our portfolio. And I think that's really exciting how, again, the excitement in wine, the wine tourism aspect in the UK, that really, I think, helps drive the sales of the UK wines. It engenders an excitement in the wines if you can go and visit the winery really easily. So I think it's so exciting, the English wine industry, and it's just really lovely to watch it grow and just see the quality of the wine is just exceptional. So it's really exciting.
Actually, it's something that not only for the UK, but a lot of countries are kind of emerging in terms of wine production. And when most wineries start, it's always part of nowadays, it's mostly part of the business model to have hospitality as well. So, I mean, I was in India 4 months ago now, and most wineries in India have got quite a strong hospitality. They've developed tasting and things like that quite a lot. And I suppose, although climate change has benefited UK, sometimes you will have bad years, so being able to host visitors, and most wineries are within commuting distance from London, so it's actually for the one who listening and who live in the UK, I would definitely encourage you to visit wineries. But even if you're from much further afield, I would definitely encourage you to visit your local winery as well, because I mean, it's 11:30 in the UK, but if you're listening from, you might be listening from in India or wherever, from the east or the west from us. Yeah, so this is trying wine also as a producer is always very, very important. I suppose, is it the way you started? You started a bit being interested in wine. Was it trying wine, or was it going to winery?
Going to winery is definitely. I mean, like obviously, in my case, I didn't come from the wine industry very early on, and then but food and wine was always my passion. And then living in the States and going to Napa Sonoma seemed to be a very obvious choice if you wanted to see how the winery works and how the vineyard looked like. And then I started there. I realized that, there's a lot more to learn. That's why I joined the Cordon Bleu back in 2018 to really know how to appreciate wine. Well, that's my goal, but then somehow I turned the hobby into a career, a new profession. So that's another story. But then I do feel that, living here now, I have a very strong passion for English wine, and I have a special place in my heart because I was fully trained here in the UK, right? In terms of wine. So every time when I get to go back to the States, to China, I bring English wine, and then I want to show people from the other side of the world that we can make really interesting wine here, and the quality. I mean, even since 2018, since I started this career, that you can see the quality has already stepped up. So this is very, very good for me to be the advocate for English wine. But also, I mean, right now the quality is really, really good. It's not like because we live here, so we prefer it. No, and then I have English still wine, and I have 2 English sparkling wine, and then more and more I have people booking the event or their special dinner, and they specifically ask for English wine. So when they say, "Oh, we want to start with sparkling wine," okay, so would you like to have champagne? No, I want English wine. And then also have overseas guests, and they're like, "Oh, English wine, never tried English wine." Then of course, and I'll encourage. So this is, I think that English wine is right now obviously is emerging, but then also I think that for us, when we work with people who are curious about wine, I think it's a good opportunity to encourage them to try other region, other variety, and then just get it's very beneficial for everybody.
Well, just a small anecdote, but the recent visit of our dear French president to the UK, King Charles offered some English sparkling wine in the gala reception, which is our sparkling wine, so we were quite proud. But most definitely there are some wines which shouldn't be shy of what Champagne produces. The quality level has really picked up. Price-wise, doesn't always come cheap, but it's but what Matthieu mentioned about the hospitality. Most wineries will have really, really nice venues to receive their clients. So I think it's the cellar door experience in the UK is really, really excellent, I have to say. And visiting winery, we've been lucky between the 4 of us. I'm pretty sure we've visited quite a lot of regions and wineries, but it makes a huge difference, particularly Napa, Sonoma, but Chile, Argentina, Australia. Those are dreamlands, without forgetting South Africa. So.
And actually, I mean, England is could be considered as an emerging region. What are the other kind of emerging regions that you've seen, either through your portfolio or through your travel?
I hesitate to mention Greece again because I don't really think that is an emerging region, but I suppose for some it is. But that's definitely one that's considered as such, although we've had it around for quite some time. I think it's really exciting. We've got some new producers from Turkey. We've got Kuzbag, some fantastic wines from Turkey. We've got North Macedonia, the Lebanon. We really have wine from everywhere. So it's amazing, really, and I think it's just really exciting, the variety. When I organise our big portfolio tasting, I arrange it by country, and it's like sort of taking a tour through, and all the countries that I include. It's just fantastic. I think it's a real journey. So.
On top of what Sarah mentioned, I think you might be surprised, and it's not to be out of the subject, but I think China has a lot to offer. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there were no Chinese wines on the market. Now you see some really cracking wines being made there. And if you go to China, I've opened a restaurant in China, so I spent a bit of time there. The quality of the offer is quite great. You've got 5-10 really fabulous producers. Lebanon is another one of my favorites, because Lebanon, you've got one main brand which everyone knows, but outside of this brand, there are 4 or 5 really world-class producers. And in terms of emerging wine countries, I would say it's not emerging, but new region or newish kind of known region in the US, like the Washington State, like Oregon, offers something really different and really interesting.
Yeah, of course. I personally do like Oregon and Washington State wine. I mean, and then on top of that, obviously, we see more. Well, every year when we go to the London Wine Fair, you get a sense of what is coming up even more and more. I mean, recent years, in addition to Greece, they have big exhibition there with Romanian wine, and then I was quite surprised last year to try the Serbian wine. Some really interesting producer making really quality wine. China, as you said, a lot of very good producers nowadays. I mean, I actually got to try more Chinese wine here in London probably than when I was visiting China recently. But I think that the only concern, not concern, but I would just see that in this market, the Chinese wine, after all the duties and tax and everything, the price might not be as competitive, so that might hinder the sale or the push of the recognition. But that's definitely all the interesting places to try. And I used to have this red wine from Bulgaria on my wine list, and it was very nicely made, and then it was very good in value for money. And then when it comes to something that's more approachable and known variety, encourage people to try a new region. So of course there are a lot of interesting things to try. So yeah, exciting to every year to see new region and varieties.
I mean, and also within every country, again, climate change push producers to discover new boundaries. So everywhere in the world, actually, where most traditional wine producing regions have seen their climates getting warmer, which means that not far they've been developing the cooler area within these regions, and also in traditional wine producing country like France, like Italy, like Spain, you will see actually places that were too cold to grow grapes that now can make great wine. And I mean, if I have one advice to give is don't be afraid to try different things, as Jashan mentioned, different grape varieties. There are hundreds of thousands of grape varieties, so I would try to sometimes move a bit away from your comfort zone. I mean, this is one thing that education does help a lot with, is in terms of appreciating wine for what it is, not for necessarily what you think the label is going to tell you. And I guess in terms of grape variety, do you see a greater demand from new grape variety from your customer, Sarah and Olivier?
I think to go back to our conversation about the younger consumers of wine now, I think there is an excitement to try different grape varieties. There's more of curiosity there. And I think that's where training really does come in. Just telling them more about wine, providing the story behind the wine is really important. I mean, we've got a great training team at Hallgarten that are always out and about, really giving all the information about the wine. And I think that really helps our customers. They can then use the stories. They can really then hand sell. They can really describe the wines to customers, both in the on and off trade. So I think that's a really key part of it, yes.
What do you think?
I definitely think some grape varieties have really started to appear more widely onto the market. One is Greek. It's Assertico, which is becoming one of not only people's favorite, but restaurant favorite, sommelier favorite. I think Grüner Veltliner is another one, which I'm particularly keen on. I really love Grüner Veltliner as a grape. Albarino could be another one. Alvarinho, the equivalent in Portugal. Portuguese white grape varieties, I'm really, really fond of. I really like some grapes like Loureiro, Avesso, Fernão Pires, which are not household names, but it's not easy to pronounce when you're not Portuguese. But the up-and-coming grape varieties like this are really popular. And there are some grape varieties which have, for very long, been misunderstood. One of my favorite grape, but I don't taste some very often because on our portfolio we have very few, but is Riesling. Riesling has always had this image of being the off-dry or sweetish kind of type of wine, but the very best Rieslings from Germany couldn't be shy of what they produce because they can produce some of the world's best wines. But I think Riesling is still a little bit under the radar, in a way.
Well, on the floor in the restaurant, I like to encourage people to try different grape varieties, and because in my case, I'm always curious. To me, anything I cannot pronounce, I need to try it. But then at the same time, I see actually a lot of the customers, they are curious. But then at the same time, how can I make them feel comfortable to go for a grape variety that's unfamiliar to them? So I think that's going back to what we were talking about, the education. So first, as a sommelier, we need to educate ourselves. We need to know the story behind each grape variety we want to promote or we want to introduce to the customer. And then we need to be able to establish that trust within a very short period of time by talking to the guests, for them to know that you kind of know what you're talking about and that they trust your professional opinion. Then they will try something. And then it is, whether it's a new grape variety from, from Greece, from Cyprus, from Turkey, from Portugal, or it's a new style, like you said, a Riesling. There are so many different kinds of Riesling. How to encourage people to try, say, a bone-dry Riesling versus, and when they are more familiar with the off-dry style. So I think that's, at the end of the day, if we want to encourage people to try more, then education comes into play. Yes.
Yeah, basically, the idea is to make people confident enough to move out of their comfort zone. And also, one thing that I found about the wine education in the UK compared to where I come from originally, to be honest, is here it's much more approachable and there is much less kind of sometimes the pomp and circumstances is not helping making people the idea is education should not be intimidating and should be quite open, and to be honest, everybody is always learning something, whether it's a teacher or whether it's a student. because wine is not something that is static. It's what we've been discussing is the style of wine that people used to drink when I started, by almost 30 years ago now. Yeah. And now it's really, really, really different. And I'm sure, and also what's happening is it is what people want is evolving even much faster. So I don't know if it's something that you've seen in terms of do you think the speed at which people change change direction in terms of what they want or what sells? Do you see a very kind of do you see different different spike of popularity 1 year to another, or is there a very neat progression into what changes? Both of you. Oh, sorry.
I'll try. I think the trend I can see is not only in the consumer base, but also from the sommelier point of view, is the trend to drink younger wines. As Matthieu mentioned, we've been trained. We are approximately the same age. We've been trained in tasting wines from the 60s, 70s, 80s when they were at least 20, 25, 30 years old. And it's not really the trend anymore. It's more about drinking young wines. So we would talk about infanticide when we were young, but that's the reality. People, they don't drink Bordeaux with more than 10, 15 years of age, which is a pity, but it's like this. It's the trend. And if you talk about Burgundy, for instance, people, they would drink now 2022 vintage, which is also a pity because the wine will not reach its full potential. But on the other hand, some producers are adapting their winemaking in order to make the wine more palatable or drinkable early. Because that's what the consumer demand is, and we need to adapt to this kind of trend. So in a way, yes, there are some changes in this fashion, but also we need to adapt to what people want. So the younger generation, they will go for quality rather than quantity. They usually are quite fit. They want to exercise, so they don't want to drink too much, but the quality needs to be there. But with the price point going up, anyway, they can't afford more than one bottle. So
And I think it's also, when we talk about the younger generation and being fit and being health conscious, I think that's the move towards low alcohol or zero alcohol wine. And that's definitely a trend that we're really, really seeing over the last couple of years. So we've had to really work hard to find some great producers to work with on that. And I think the quality there is really increasing. So I think that's going to be a trend that's going to continue. I think that's a really important part of the certainly the young generation, but really all generations, to be conscious of health and conscious of alcohol. So I think that's something that we've really got to take seriously. And if that's what the consumer wants, we've got to find some great wines to provide them with. So
yes, the low and no trend, definitely see that in Russia, more and more customers will come to me and say, oh, do you have non-alcoholic drink? Not necessarily just wine, but also mocktails. You can see that more interest in that. In terms of non-alcoholic wine, I mean, we have non-alcoholic sparkling wine, and then we might add even more down the road, but definitely that is the trend we're seeing. But then at the same time, I do see the conscious the quality, and then was over the quantity, and then well, I mean, like, I enjoy my wine, and I do see that, I mean, I do like quality wine, and I know that the alternative region I might want to look into for better value. But then at the same time, when we're talking about, yes, ideally we drink our Burgundy or Bordeaux with some aging, but then the reality right now, I mean, like, as a regular consumer, when you're in a restaurant, when you're looking at the price point for a more mature Burgundy and a Bordeaux, it's not always affordable to the younger generation, or even for not I mean for a lot of them. So you see that at that point, for me, I think that what I would like to do is to tell people that if you like that style of wine, where else can you look? I mean, if you are not going to splurge today, what can you get to still have a good time without breaking the bank, basically, in that sense. So, but then, of course, there are, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, there are a lot of other regions for a similar style of wine, but from other regions, you might get better quality or a similar quality for slightly lesser money. So, that is a fun that I'm sure that we all enjoy in the wine industry. But then also, going back to our conversation about education, that's where education comes in play.
To be honest, so I've seen a shift in 11 years at the school. I've seen quite a big shift where on some of the program I was only teaching about wine. We were trying about 20 wine, and now on diploma culinary management, for example, half of what we are trying is not wine or non-alcoholic. So a lot of kombucha, a lot of non-alcoholic sparkling wine, lot of drink based on alternative to wine, a lot of plant-based drink like substitute for bitter that you can drink with sparkling water, sparkling tea. And tea, to be fair, is probably one of the best options that you can consider as an alternative to wine, because quite often the balance can be quite similar. But rather than having tea that is drunk very warm, you can actually drink tea at room temperature, especially teas like oolong, tea like Darjeeling, teas that have got more complexity in terms of flavor, as long as you stay away from sugar and milk. I do apologize, but bubble tea for me is not tea. So we really saw a shift into demand for non-alcoholic beverages, and this is something that when I left a restaurant, I had no non-alcoholic option available, and I guess if I were working in restaurant now, at least by the glass, a third would be non-alcoholic beverage. Because have you developed beyond wine, or is it just wine in terms of your offer? Or do you know if there is any plan to go beyond wine at Hallgarten, or alternative, or just low alcohol at the moment?
Yeah, just low alcohol at the moment. We are wine. We've just branched into our first spirit with Frappin, but it's wine really. So at the moment, it's just the low alcohol and the zero alcohol. I mean, we've got some great brands working with Naughty, working with Brown Brothers, working with Levan. So yeah, we've got some great brands. We've really worked hard to try and find the quality, and we're really pleased that we're really finding that now. So it's been a journey, but we're definitely getting there.
And for you, Olivier, do you think it's...
So I work for a company which has been around for 30 plus years. They are usually looking at new trends. They are usually working on a new project, but it's not a fast move, because they are picky, but picky in a good way. You don't want to rush into getting a new agency if it's not fitting your philosophy. And also you need to take into account some of our producers have already started the trend of doing things differently. So we've got one we just released. It's not a rosé, it's not a red, it's in between at relatively low alcohol. And it's one of the world leading producer from France. They've been doing this for about a year and a half. And possibly down the line, we will look at no alcohol or low alcohol. Yep, 100%. And that's what the market wants. That's what you need to offer, but it needs to be high quality, I think. And I used to be part of when I was in hospitality, I used to be part of a restaurant group which started to develop a no alcoholic program. but quite a long time ago. We talk about at least 10, 12 years ago. And they invested a lot of money into developing kombucha, but Saprote, Saprote from Kazakhstan, we were getting some non-alcoholic sake from the UK. So really, really fascinating, because that company was opening restaurants in non-alcoholic drinking country like Saudi Arabia, like Abu Dhabi, Dubai. There is alcohol in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, but the Arabic scene is no alcohol, so you need to be able to offer this kind of product.
I know. I remember that actually, because I remember Christine. She was.
She was one of the precursors. She's
Exactly,
an absolute superstar.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But so I suppose I suppose actually when you what you're looking at is a lot of producers who go to no. Actually, you have two different types. And you have brands that are created 100%. By entrepreneurs who decide to go directly toward non-alcoholic products. And then you have traditional producers who decide to develop a range that is non-alcoholic. But I suppose, again, the economy of scale needs to be already there. But so I think we're probably arriving towards the end of the session. But so maybe we have one or two questions. So sorry. So one of the questions that came up was, what advice do you have for consumers looking to find high quality wine at reasonable prices in an increasingly expensive market? So this is a tricky question. So who wants to answer that one? Or we can all...
I think it's, again, what we've been speaking about. Perhaps if you look outside some of the traditional wine regions, that not always, but sometimes they can be perhaps more affordable. So it's just a question of perhaps trying wines that you wouldn't, or regions you wouldn't necessarily try, might give you the opportunity to try a higher quality wine at a less expensive price, I guess.
Well, I guess from my perspective, where to get the high quality wine at reasonable price, actually, when you're in a restaurant, don't be intimidated by the sommelier. Ask your question. And a lot of time, nowadays, I do enjoy when the customer, when they tell me very straightforward, this is how much I want to spend, and this is the style I like. Okay, great. Then I can help you to get to the wine that hopefully fits your palate better. And then, I would say in a wine store, specialty wine store, ask the salespeople. Ask your question. Don't be shy, and then you will get a lot of help from the professional, and will help you to get to the right wine at the price point you're more comfortable with.
Definitely, it's definitely using prescriptors, whether in shop, whether in restaurants, whether in I guess the way wine list or the way retail merchants online are also organized is quite important in communicating and helping people to discover new things. I mean, I suppose, do you encourage your the retailer or the restaurant you sell to have this approach? Or?
Yes, most definitely. In fact, I think being adventurous in terms of the origin of the wine can be really useful. To give one example, Chile can offer world-class quality for really much lower price than Bordeaux in terms of Bordeaux varietals, for instance. If you look at South Africa is still a very exciting country where very few wines would be classified as the fine wine we talk about, and despite the huge quality they are producing. So there are places like this around the world where you can find quality. Now it's also part of the retail shop, whoever is deciding on the selection, or the sommelier in a restaurant, to be able to look out for those quality wines, which can then be introduced to their clients, I think.
Right. Also, right, thank you very much for listening to us. I hope you've you found it very interesting. Thank you very much for Jiachen, Sarah, and Olivier to join me on this panel. And I hope I hope it will help you in your wine journey. Feel free to kind of look at all our to engage with us if you further if you want to. But have a lovely afternoon or evening or morning, depending where you are. But no, thank you very much for engaging with us. Thank you.